Hello friends, welcome back to this structural design one, that is the design of steel structures lecture series. So in this second lecture of the series, we will go for design philosophies. So in this we will be going for working stress method, ultimate load theory and limit state method. Now in this design philosophy is nothing but the base or the philosophy on which this entire design is based on. The structural design is supported by all these design philosophies. These design philosophies guide designer in what way the exact design procedure should be conducted. A working stress method is the earliest method evolved in this. Later on, to overcome the lacunas or drawbacks of working stress method, ultimate load theory was developed, and limit state method is the latest one, which covers or which overcome lacunas or drawbacks of earlier two design philosophies, that is working stress method and ultimate load theory. I will go one by one into all these design philosophies, starting with working stress method. The basic assumption of working stress method is that material behaves in a linear elastic manner. Now, what exactly linear elastic manner means? The material obeys Hooke's law. What exactly linear elastic manner means? The material obeys Hooke's law. If you draw stress strain curve for the material, steel particularly, so in this case you will get uh, the yielding point, upper yield, lower yield, and then you will get what you say ultimate load, breaking point, likewise. So in this you have to go for what exactly yield stress means. Now material behaves in linear elastic manner means this line. So within this range, the material obeys Hooke's law, that is stress is directly proportional to strain. The stress is directly proportional to strain. So material obeys Hooke's law within elastic limit. That is the basic assumption, that material obeys or material behaves in a linear elastic manner. So using this assumption, entire design was developed. Now for that, yield stress is used. Now yield stress is obtained from this stress strain diagram for particular material, say mild steel. So once you get yield stress value, that yield stress value is adopted for design, applying some factor of safety. So certain factor of safety was designed in WSM, and using that factor of safety, the working permissible stresses are calculated. So permissible stress, so this is obtained as a ratio of yield stress to factor of safety. Yield stress to factor of safety. Permissible stresses or allowable stresses, and working stresses are always kept less than permissible stresses or allowable stresses. So this is how the design starts, or design is based on this working principle, that material behaves in a linear elastic manner. So working stress is the stress for which is used for entire design. So using working stress only, entire design is to be done. So in this case, factor of safety is defined for tension member, beams or short columns. So that value is given as 1.67. So it's 1.67, that value. And for long columns, it is given as 1.92. So when you have to go for design, always you have to go for working stress values only, and this working stress will be always less than permissible stresses and allowable stresses, and this working stress has to be always less than permissible or allowable. So this is how you have to arrive at that particular design value. So based on this only, design load, working load, all these things were calculated. Now, what is the advantage of this working stress method? So this is the simplest method because it doesn't involve too many calculation. Only thing, you have to calculate yield stress, you have to apply factor of safety, then you will be getting permissible stresses, and this permissible stress should be always greater than working stress. So as simple as that. So only this much calculations or initial assumptions are required. Once you get this working stress value, based on this entire design is to be done. So this method is reliable, reasonably reliable. This is second advantage of this method. As you are working on or working with working stresses only, the low material is well within elastic limit. So chances of failure are very much less. So strength of the structure will be always assured. The strength will be always assured. That's why this method is considered as reasonably reliable. So as the working stresses are low, the serviceability requirements are satisfied automatically. This is the third one. Now what is serviceability? Now serviceability means the ability of structure to serve the intended purpose. And suppose you are designing slab. Now purpose of slab is to provide either roofing or to provide support to next floor. So its slab is serviceable means what? So it is providing or it is serving its function. So there is no sag in the slab. Sag nahi ho raha hai slab mein. It is having its original position as it is intact. So there is no deflection, excessive deflection. So that indicates slab is serviceable. So as we are dealing with working stresses only, we are not designing the structure beyond working stresses, which is always less than permissible stresses. This serviceability condition will always be automatically satisfied. This is the third advantage of working stress method. First, the calculations are very simple, so that's why it's not that tedious. Second, the method is reasonably reliable, and third one, serviceability conditions are satisfied. So with these three advantages, we will now look for what are limitations of this working stress method. Now the very basic assumption is what? The material behaves in a linear elastic manner, but no material exists which fully behaves in a perfect linear elastic manner. So there is always non-linearity involved in material as well as geometry. So the basic assumption of linear elastic behavior of material is not satisfied. It is violated because there is always material non-linearity as well as geometric non-linearity. So that's why, so this basic assumption itself fails to satisfy. The next, whatever assumptions are made, so those are not realistic. So first assumption is related to material behavior, linear elastic behavior, and second, then factor of safety, certain factor of safeties are assumed. So those are not having any base or scientific base for that. So whatever assumptions are made, those are not found realistic owing to effect of stress concentration, then long term effect of creep and shrinkage, and then residual stresses and other secondary effects. Now looking into or taking into consideration all these effects, whatever assumptions are made, those doesn't appear to be realistic. So this is the second limitation of this. And next, unrealistic measure of factor of safety underlying a design. Now factor of safety is defined for say tension member, compression member, or long column likewise. So it doesn't take into consideration so different material behavior. So if you are using steel of different grades, what will happen? Or if the loading conditions are different, what will happen? If static load is acting, dynamic load is acting, seismic loads are acting. So for different situation, the factor of safety is randomly defined, and there is no any realistic measure of this actual factor of safety. So this is another limitation. And next one, it fails to discriminate between different types of load acting simultaneously. Now, what are different loads acting on structure? So it may be dead load, it may be live load. So these are gravity loads acting in the direction of gravity. Then there is either wind load or earthquake load or seismic load. So these are commonly appearing loads on the structure. So apart from this, there can be snow load, erection load, like that. But these are three basic, you can say, either gravity load or lateral loads, wind load and earthquake load. If you take into consideration effect of dead load and live load, those are acting in the direction of gravity. But same time, wind load, if it is a upward or uplift pressure is acting, it will be acting in upward direction. So means what? This particular force and this particular force, those are stabilizing each other. When these forces are acting simultaneously, gravity load and earthquake load or wind load, so the combination of these loads acting simultaneously, now that particular combination is not given due importance in this working stress method, or the effect of different forces acting simultaneously, that has not been touched to in working stress method. So that is the major lacuna in working stress method. So the different limitations what we have seen, starting with material and geometric non-linearity, which is neglected. Then assumptions whatever are made, those are not found realistic because of different effects. Then factor of safety is not properly defined. And then next is different loads acting simultaneously, effect of those loads acting simultaneously, that has not been addressed properly by working stress method. Now to overcome these flaws, now one more is there, what exactly happens when we are going through all these limitations. No doubt method is reasonably reliable, then whatever results you are getting, the structure will be serviceable, and the entire method is very simple. But at the same time, what is happening, the material leads to design leads to unconservative design, particularly when two different loads are counteracting each other. So immediate last one, what we have seen, the effect of different loads acting simultaneously. So that has not been dealt with properly. Now because of this, the design may be unconservative. Now, if you are taking dead load, live load in this direction and wind load is upward, so it will be perpendicular to the plane. But if you take component of that, so it is acting vertically upward direction. Now these forces, those will counterbalance each other. But if you are not taking this effect into consideration, if you consider all forces acting in same direction, so there will be excess load considered in design. So if you are considering excessive load in design, ultimately your design will be unconservative, and this may lead to uneconomical design. Now, to overcome these flaws or limitations of working stress method, the next method introduced was ultimate load theory. So this is also commonly known as load factor method. So this is another name. So when you are applying this ultimate load theory, typically to steel structure, it is known as plastic design of steel structure. Now, in case of ultimate load theory, this load factor is introduced. Like in case of working stress method, it was factor of safety. Here, load factor is introduced. What is that? It is the ratio of ultimate load to working load. So, maximum possible or ultimate load, what can act on the structure. So, that to working load, that ratio is defined as load factor. Now, as you are designing for ultimate load, no doubt the strength criteria will be satisfied. When you design the structure, it has to satisfy strength, it has to satisfy serviceability, it has to satisfy economy. So these different things or points are to be, or parameters are to be satisfied by structure when you are designing. Now, as far as ultimate load theory is concerned, you are working at ultimate load, so that's why strength will definitely be assured. But at the same time, serviceability is hampered in case of ultimate load theory. So serviceability is not assured in ultimate load theory. So this is the major disadvantage of this ultimate load theory, that it doesn't assure about serviceability of the structure. Working stress method, it assures both strength as well as serviceability. Strength and serviceability both are assured in working stress method. But what is the problem there? Economy is not assured. So both are satisfied, but at the same time, economy is hampered in working stress method. In case of ultimate load theory, strength is okay or it is assured, but serviceability is not at all assured. So this is basic limitation. So to overcome still remaining limitations or flaws in design philosophy, the latest design philosophy was evolved. That is limit state method. Now, why there was need of limit state method? We will just justify the need of limit state method. Now, there is always uncertainties are involved. Certain uncertainties are involved in the design. Now, looking at these uncertainties, it becomes difficult to go for design with ongoing practices of previous design philosophies, that is working stress method and ultimate load theory. Now, what are those uncertainties? The first one is about loading. So, as discussed just previously, so what types of load are acting on the structure? Those are not properly judged by previous two methods or previous two design philosophies. Also, the simultaneous effect of different loads acting together. So that is uncertainty. Moreover, you predict sometime a certain amount of load, but when the actual lifespan of structure goes on, so during the entire lifespan, so there is always uncertainty related to loading. So that is not at all properly addressed by previous two methods. So it is urgent need, or it was urgent need to address this uncertainty. Then second is related to material strength. So when you consider or assume certain material properties, be it yield stress, be it ultimate stress, be it elongation. So certain properties, physical properties of material initially we assume, mechanical properties and physical properties. But during manufacturing, so there may be certain defects related to material strengths, or material may behave certain differently other than whatever it was lab behavior. Lab में आपको कुछ अलग behavior दिखाई देता है, and when you enter into actual field practice, there this assumed behavior may not be matching. So that's why the material strength is again subjected to uncertainty, because it may suddenly behave differently material. So that uncertainty again needs immediate attention, or before before developing this limit state method, there was urgent need to address these uncertainties. Then next is structural dimensions. As far as steel is concerned, or any structural member, be it RCC or steel member, so initially dimensions are assumed, but while actual fabrication or manufacturing of steel cross sections or casting of concrete, so there may be changes, or there may be differences in structural dimension. So जो assume किया है वो आपको दिखेगा नहीं. So this may happen due to either human error or improper quality controls. So structural dimensions may not be same as per assumption. There may be slight variation, no doubt. There won't be major changes. Even slight variation can lead to hamperage to structural stability and strength. So this is again uncertainty. Then uncertainty related to behavior under load. So if you consider steel as a material, you apply tensile load. Suppose this member is there, you are applying tensile load to it. In lab, this material gives certain results. This material or this member gives certain results in lab for this particular load. But on site, same load is acting on same member, but the behavior may be different from lab result. The material may behave differently from the lab behavior on actual site. So that is the last uncertainty involved in design. About loading, so there may be different uh, sudden loads acting on the structure which was not initially percepted. So initially you may not have that presumption that this type of load is going to act. So that if you are not considering, that is leading to uncertainty, or it's always uncertain in entire lifespan. Suppose you are designing the structure for 25 years, 50 years, 100 years. So during that lifespan, so there is always uncertainty related to loading. Then material strength, as discussed, material strength may vary from lab result. Then structural dimension, due to either improper workmanship or improper quality control norms, there may be uncertainties related to structural dimension. And last one is behavior under load. When there are so many uncertainties in the design, and the previously existing working stress method and ultimate load theory, those are not at all addressing these uncertainties. If you are not addressing these uncertainties, your design is not going to be perfect, because there are some chances of failure. Now to avoid this, the next method was introduced, that is limit state method. We'll just go through this limit state method. What exactly limit state? Now as names suggest, limit state. Now limit is particular restricted. So when there is a restriction, that implies limit. So here we are considering certain limiting states of structural behavior. What exactly limit state means? It is a state at which one of the conditions pertaining to the structure has reached a limiting value. Or in other words, we can say limit state is a state limit state is a state at which structure fails to serve its intended purpose. Now structure is designed for what? Strength, to have proper strength, and second, serviceability. So structure is designed to satisfy these two criteria, strength and serviceability. Now limit state means what? It is a state beyond which the structure fails to serve its intended purpose, be it related to strength, be it related to serviceability. So these are limit states. So as we are dealing with strength and serviceability only, so limit states are classified into two types. One is limit state of strength, another is limit state of serviceability. What is limit state? Once again I will repeat. It is a state at which or beyond which structure fail to serve its intended purpose, or it is a state at which one of the conditions pertaining to structure has reached a limiting value. One of the conditions means what? Again, it's related to strength and service. Now, under limit states of strength, there are different parameters or conditions given. Now, all these things are defined by IS 800. All these things are defined by IS 800 2007. So entire design philosophy or design will be abided by different codal provisions. In India, Bureau of Indian Standards governs all these codal provisions. So IS 800 2007, this is the code provides all design guidelines related to limit state method, right? So this IS 800 2007, hereafter whatever clauses or whatever design philosophy related things we will be dealing with, it will be supported by IS 800 2007, right? Now limit state of strength, in that strength as governed by material. So material strength directly, it will be first parameter of limit state of strength, then buckling strength in case of compression members, then stability against overturning if we are designing certain member and it is subjected to overturning moments, so that stability against overturning is assured as per limit state of strength. Then fatigue fracture, which is not repairable damage, so that is covered under limit state of strength. And then finally brittle fracture. So these are 5 different things which are covered under limit state of strength. Then limit state of serviceability. Now serviceability means if the structure is designed to uh, serve certain function, be it beam, be it column, be it slab, whatever structural component we are designing, it has to serve certain function. If it is following or properly satisfying that particular function, it indicates that it is serviceable. Now if it is not serviceable means what? Certain parameters related to that function is violated. Now for example, these are certain things listed below limit state of serviceability. Deflection. Now deflection, limit state of deflection means what? If any beam, if you are designing, it has subjected to say central point load, so when it is undergoing deflection, it has certain value. Maximum permissible value is always there. Now that maximum permissible value is nothing but limit state of deflection. Now similar to beam, so there are different conditions to be satisfied for different structural member under limit state of deflection. Now similar to deflection, there is vibration, then sway, lateral deflection, then repairable damage under fatigue cracks. Now fatigue cracks are covered under, or fatigue damage is also covered under a limit state of strength, but it is not repairable. So when you are dealing with limit state of serviceability, these fatigue cracks are repairable damage. Then corrosion, as far as steel is concerned, be it steel reinforced in RCC or structural steel in case of steel structures, it has chances to undergo corrosion. So that is related to serviceability. And then finally fire resistance. So all these different limit states are covered under serviceability. So limit state, it is a state beyond which structure fails to serve its intended purpose. Then there are two limit states. One is limit state of strength, another is limit state of serviceability. Limit state of strength is directly related to strength criteria of structure, whereas serviceability is related to its serviceability and the particular service which it is going to offer. Next, moving ahead, the structure is designed for limit states for their intended purpose by choosing appropriate partial safety factors. See here. Now in WSM there was factor of safety. In ultimate load theory there was load factor. Now both of these were not satisfying certain requirements of structural design. Now to overcome limitations of these two methods, if you can see here partial safety factor is introduced. Now whatever uncertainties are the design, uncertainties involved in the design, those are partially handled by these partial safety factors. Now which are those two factors? One is for loading, one is for material strength. Now if you see the uncertainties involved in the design, you can categorize these in straight away two things. So one category is of load, another category of material. So that's why whenever this was designed limit state method. So two partial safety factors were introduced. One was to take care of loading uncertainties. Another was developed to take care of material uncertainties. So gamma F is the partial safety factor for loads, and gamma M is the partial safety factor for material. Now IS 800 2007 table number 4. So table 4 of IS 800 2007 gives idea about partial safety factor for load. Now this table itself is a table number 4 of IS 800 2007. Now here different load combinations you can see. If you remember discussion in WSM, that WSM fails to discriminate between different loads acting simultaneously, or effect of different load acting simultaneously. Now that flaw, that limitation has been taken over by limit state method. Why? How? This is the way. So here different load combinations are introduced. What are different load combinations given here? DL, ELL, CL. What is DL? It's a dead load, live load, train load. Similarly, dead load, live load, either wind load or earthquake load. So wind and earthquake load will never act. We will never as consider both load acting simultaneously. At a time, there will be either wind load or earthquake load, right? So these are different load combinations given by IS 800 2007. That is limit state design philosophy. So these are the values of partial safety factors in different cases. Here live load is there. This is first column is for dead load, second is for live load, third is for wind load or earthquake load. Then AL. What is AL? It's an accidental load. So for different loads, so there are different partial safety factors given. So when we will enter into actual design, there you will have to use these different values of load combination. So partial safety factor for dead load is 1.5. For live load, for leading and accompanying, these are two different words. Now leading, accompanying, it will be typically applicable in case of moving loads. So when you are dealing with individual loads or static load, in that case for live load partial safety factor is 1.5, for dead load it is 1.5. Now if you compare the partial safety factors for limit state of strength and limit state of serviceability, you can observe here for dead load and live load, the most common load combination, partial safety factor for serviceability is always 1. For a regular load combination of dead load and live load, partial safety factor for strength it is 1.5, whereas serviceability for serviceability is 1. Means what? The strength is taken care at ultimate load. When you apply partial safety factor, the load become ultimate load. The strength is assured at ultimate load, and serviceability, partial safety factor is 1 only. Means what? Serviceability is assured at working load only. So when working load is acting, in during that, serviceability is assured by limit state design philosophy at working load, and strength is assured at ultimate load. So if you compare these values, dead load, live load, for that partial safety factor for strength it is 1.5, and for serviceability it is 1 only. If you are multiplying by 1.5, it becomes ultimate load. If you multiply it with 1 only, means load remains, or the load value remains that only, means working load only. So safety or strength is assured at ultimate load, and serviceability is assured at working load. Now this is partial safety factor for material. Now this is table number 5 of IS 800 2007. Now these are different material partial safety factors for material. Gamma M0, gamma M0 against yielding buckling, then governed by ultimate stress gamma M1. Then for bolted connection typically gamma MF, gamma MB, gamma MR, gamma MW. Now here shop fabrication and field fabrication. Now if you are going for on-site fabrication, it becomes field fabrication. And if you are following close quality control norms in shop, it is shop fabrication. And accordingly, these partial safety factors for material are developed. So this is table number 5, and this is table number 6. So this gives you idea about limit state of serviceability. So these are different limiting values of deflection. So this last column gives you idea about maximum permissible deflection. These are different design load, wind load, live load. Different loads are given here. This fourth column gives you idea about member, for which member we are considering that limiting value of deflection. So using this table number 6, we can arrive at maximum permissible values of deflection. So this is all about limit state method, different partial safety factors involved in design. So in what way it was necessary to introduce limit state method. So looking at different uncertainties involved in the design and different flaws of previous WSM and ultimate load theory, it was need to develop limit state method to overcome those flaws. So this is how limit state method takes care of all the flaws. Moreover, it is addressing all 4 uncertainties involved in the design. So all these 4 uncertainties are addressed by gamma F and gamma EM. Partial safety factor for load, partial safety factor for material. So that's all for this session. So in this, we have gone through different design philosophies. Design philosophy is meant to provide a strong conceptual base for structural design. So 3 design philosophies we have seen here. First was working stress method, second was ultimate load theory, and last one is limit state method. So to overcome flaws in earlier 2 design philosophies, that is working stress method and ultimate load theory, this latest limit state method design philosophy is developed. So IS 800 2007 governs all the guidelines related to limit state design philosophy. In next section, next lecture, we will continue with design of structural members. What are different types of structural members, that we will see first, and then we can go for design. So for till then, I take your leave. Thank you. Best luck for your preparations.